Hey guys, so I am in the hospital, but I decided to do this live stream anyway because I know all you guys signed up for it and I can't disappoint my fans. Welcome to Saving Destiny Chapter 13. We're gonna start off reading the mom's perspective. Last we left, Destiny was at the Jackson Center. She had a rash all over her body, head to toe, and the Jackson Center was claiming it was heat rash. Her mom came to visit her and saw the rash and was horrified and immediately called up the nurse's station. That's where this chapter begins. Mom, I was starting to have a feeling that Destiny's rash was a reaction to the new medication that she had been started on 3 weeks ago. When the psychiatrist at the Jackson Center had prescribed Destiny's mood stabilizer, the Lamictal, the day after she had arrived there, I had looked it up online. Every single website warned in big letters that it has side effects of a rash that could become very dangerous if left alone. It had said that if a patient develops the rash, they should have the medication discontinued and seek medical attention immediately. Why they had allowed Destiny's rash to progress to the point it was baffled me. As soon as I get home, I called up the nurse's office, and the main day nurse who ran the show answered my phone call. I am very worried about Destiny, I began. The rash she has is horrible. It has spread to her entire body, including her face. I know, we think it's heat rash. Now that we have her in a different summer program, the rash should subside on her own. Anyways, we're giving her Benadryl to soothe the itching, Anne told me. Has she even been seen by a doctor or the psychiatrist there, I asked, trying to contain all my anger. What I really wanted to ask was, how could someone be so irresponsible and jerky? It's really not necessary, Anne tried to tell me. We think Destiny is trying to milk this rash for attention. I forced myself to take a deep breath. I didn't want to make things worse by blowing up on her. Well, I am extremely concerned. I am very worried that Destiny is reacting to the Lamictal that she was just started on. A serious rash called Stevens-Johnson syndrome is a known side effect of it, and I think Destiny needs to be taken off the medication immediately. Well, she's only been on the medication for a short period, so it's highly unlikely that this heat rash is a reaction to the Lamictal, and continued to insist. I'm still not comfortable with the situation at all, I dug my heels in. I know my daughter better than anyone there, and I can tell she is very uncomfortable and very sick. This is not a case of looking for attention. This is a case of needing some medical attention. I was Mama Bear seeing someone trying to hurt my cub. Well, if you're so concerned, then you can call Dr. Tanner and tell him your concerns, Anne told me. Probably just trying to get me out of her hair. Okay, I will, I decided. Here, I'll transfer you over to him, the nurse suggested, the first helpful thing she'd done in the entire interaction. The nurses believe that Destiny is suffering from heat rash, Dr. Tanner told me. It's common because of some of the medication she is taking and her red hair and fair skin color. Have you even seen her? I demanded to know. Well, no, but I trust my nurse's judgment, Dr. Tanner said. So my daughter has a rash covering her entire body. She is feeling like crap. Just started Lamictal that you prescribed about 3 weeks ago, and you haven't seen her? I was having trouble holding back my anger. I get detailed reports from Eliza, the nurses, Sharon House staff, and the school, and go by that, he informed me. I felt myself grinding my teeth so hard that my jaw ached. I'm Destiny's mother. I know her better than anyone else, and I'm positive that this is more than just heat rash. And I think it is a Stevens-Johnson syndrome reaction to Lamictal. I want her off the Lamictal. I tried to measure my words carefully and hold back the biting anger. The thing is, she is doing so well on the Lamictal. Behaviorally, we've had 0 issues with her, Dr. Tanner insisted. Yes, well, that's all nice and everything. I'm sure you won't have any more behavioral issues with her if she's dead from Stevens-Johnson syndrome, I snapped back at Dr. Tanner. Let's not overreact. Dr. Tanner's voice turned smooth and calming, as if he might be speaking with an irate mental patient. If this is a reaction to the Lamictal, Destiny could be in danger, I repeated to Dr. Tanner. I want a second opinion. What if we set Destiny up with an appointment with her pediatrician, suggested Dr. Tanner. Please, can it be for Monday, I asked. We'll see what the nurses can do, Dr. Tanner said in a non-committal tone. How about I set up the appointment and then call the nurses with a time, I suggested. There was no way I was leaving anything else so important to this doctor or these nurses. I guess that would be fine, agreed Dr. Tanner. Minutes later, I was on the phone with Dr. Langley. It's really important, I had told the nurse at our office. Mindy, the nurse, had connected me immediately. What's going on? Dr. Langley asked me as soon as she got on the phone. I told Dr. Langley the whole story of the rash that looked like a combination of lumps and bumps and burns, Destiny's lethargy, chills, dizziness, nausea, and inability to tolerate her tube feeds at 40 ml an hour without dry heaving and refluxing them back up. There's nothing left to her, I told Dr. Langley. It sounds exactly like the Stevens-Johnson syndrome reaction to the Lamictal, Dr. Langley confirmed. This is very serious. She needs to be taken off of it immediately, and she needs immediate medical attention. I want to see her in my office first thing tomorrow morning. Even though tomorrow's Saturday, I asked? Yes, it is imperative that I see her as soon as possible, Dr. Langley repeated. Is she going to be okay, I asked. I could feel my heart picking up its pace inside my chest. I hope so, Dr. Langley told me. This could be serious, though, depending on how far it has progressed. Well, I think that one of the staff members from our program is going to bring her. But is it okay if I come too? I asked cautiously. Of course that would be fine. You're her mom. You know her best. You should be there, agreed Dr. Langley. Okay, I will see you tomorrow then, I confirmed. After I got off the phone with Dr. Langley, I called the nurse's office. Hey, this is Bonnie, Destiny's mom. Oh, hi, this is Anne again. So I set up an appointment for Destiny with her pediatrician. It's for tomorrow at 9 a.m., I informed the nurse. But tomorrow's a Saturday, Anne, the nurse said. I know. She's very concerned about Destiny and believes that Destiny needs to be seen immediately, I told the nurse, trying to keep the bitter anger tone out of my voice. Well, okay, I will let the staff know, and one of them will bring her there, Anne promised me. I am going to be coming along too, I let Anne know. Well, we don't usually do that, Anne tried to tell me. Look, I snapped at Anne, feeling some of my anger boiling over. I am not at all happy with the way things have been going here over the last few days. I am literally on the verge of pulling Destiny out of this program. I need to be at that doctor's appointment tomorrow, and that is not up for negotiation. I took a few heaving breaths and tried to pull myself back together. I guess it's okay for you to come along, Anne acquiesced. Okay, good, I responded and hung up the phone. The truth was that I really wasn't about to pull Destiny out. We had completely run out of options for her. We couldn't take her home yet, and the other programs we had looked at were even worse than this one. The next morning, I arrived at Jackson Center a little early. I knocked on the door of the adolescent girl's house. Eden answered the door with a gentle smile. "How's Destiny doing?" I asked Eden. "Itchy," Eden told me. "I don't think that Benadryl they've been giving her is helping." "Yeah, I know," I sighed. Eden let me into the house. Destiny was sitting in the kitchen with the other girls who were eating cereal. She had Blinky tucked under one arm and was spinning a straw in a water bottle with a packet of Crystal Light next to it. The packet wasn't even open yet, and Destiny's head was lolled over to one side with her blue eyes glazed over. "Hey, honey," I came over and gave her a big hug and a kiss. "I'm coming along for your doctor's appointment." "Oh, good." Destiny let out a big sigh. I saw immense relief cross her face. "The staff's named Lori is going to take us. She usually works for the horticulture program, but she is a substitute in the house today." When Lori entered the room and introduced herself, she led us out to the van and had me sit in the front seat with her. There was a rule at the Jackson Center that the kids had to weigh 90 pounds or more to sit in the front seat. Destiny was light years below that. It was about a 20-minute ride to the doctor's office. Destiny was pretty quiet the whole drive. Her whole body was slumped to the side, and her eyes were half open and half closed, like she was somewhere halfway between awake and asleep. When we got to the doctor's office, Destiny swayed and almost fell getting out of the van. I had to put out my arms out to catch and steady her. "She's been really dizzy since the rash started," Lori explained to me. And then, in a quieter tone, she told me, "I've been wanting to get her checked out by a medical doctor for days." I held Destiny's hand as we walked into the building, partly because she was my daughter and I loved her, and partly because I needed to catch her if she started falling again. We took the elevator to the 4th floor and sat down in the waiting room. Lori checked us in with the receptionist, and I sat down near the TV with Destiny. SpongeBob SquarePants was playing, which was one of Destiny's favorite shows, but her eyes were glazing over even more frequently as her head drooped over onto my shoulder. The whole time we were in the waiting room. It wasn't too long before Jen— "Hang on 1 second, guys. I'm just going to pause my reading for 1 second while my nurse fixes my IV pole, and then I'll get right back to my reading. Just hang on for 1 second, guys. Thank you guys for being so patient with me. I do apologize. Like I said, I'm in the hospital right now." Okay. Alright, I'm going to continue my reading now. Alright, it wasn't too long before Jen, Dr. Langley's nurse, called us in. It took me a good 5 minutes to wake Destiny up enough to get her to follow me into the back where the exam rooms were located. I almost had to just pick her up and carry her in. First, Jen took Destiny's blood pressure when she was lying down, then when she was sitting, and then when she was standing. Then Jen gave Destiny a cup for your urine sample. When Destiny came back, Jen had her changed into a hospital gown. Jen weighed Destiny in the gown. She was now down to 64 pounds, which was her lowest weight in years and years. I swallowed hard, but tried not to react too much for Destiny's sake. After Destiny got off the scale, Jen took her temperature. "You're burning up, kiddo," Jen told Destiny. "What's her temperature?" I asked, concerned. "It's 103.4, Jen told me, shaking her head. "I will definitely tell that to the doctor." When Dr. Langley came in the room, she paused a moment at the sight of Destiny and her angry red rash. "You look very uncomfortable," she commented. "I am," Destiny immediately agreed, but she was slurring her words. "I am so itchy I can't stand it. Plus, I feel really, really sick." I certainly believe that, Dr. Langley shook her head again. I'm going to have you change back into that hospital gown so that I can see how extensive the rash is. Dr. Langley pulled out another tiger print hospital gown from the drawer under the examination table and handed it to Destiny. Your posse and I will step out so you can change, Dr. Langley told Destiny. We all stepped out. She looks awful, Dr. Langley whispered to me outside the door. I just nodded. The anger at the nurses and Dr. Tanner was boiling up inside of me again. You all set in there? Dr. Langley called in. Yeah, Destiny called back. Even her voice sounded weak and thin. We all went back into the room, and Dr. Langley helped Destiny climb up onto the examination table. Dr. Langley carefully examined all different parts of Destiny's rash. She ran her fingers over it, pressed on it, and let go. Open up and stick out your tongue and say, ah, Dr. Langley instructed Destiny. It's even inside her mouth, Dr. Langley commented. Is the rash on your bottom or your private parts at all? Dr. Langley asked Destiny. It's on my bottom and my breasts, and this morning it started to spread into my privates and my mouth, Dr. Destiny told her. Does it just itch or does it burn too? Dr. Langley asked Destiny. It burns on my stomach and a few other places too, Destiny admitted. Can I see your stomach? Asked Dr. Langley. Destiny shifted Blinky in her arms again and lifted up the hospital gown. I could not have been prepared for what I saw. The skin on her stomach no longer just had a rash on it. It was literally burned, and the skin was bright red and shiny in some places, and in other places it was white and blistered and charring and yellow, and it was literally peeling off of her stomach. It's progressed to burns, Dr. Langley said. We're going to have to get her transferred over to the hospital immediately. This is Stephen Johnson syndrome at its finest. She needs to be transferred to New York Presbyterian to their children's burn unit. It's a really bad sign that the rash is already inside her mouth, privates, and on her bottom. It's also really bad that the skin on her stomach is already turning into burns and that she has such a high fever, low blood pressure, and a high heart rate. I can't believe the Jackson Center let her get this bad. We need to stop the Lamictal immediately and get her on massive doses of IV Benadryl and IV steroids, as well as Tylenol to get the fever down. She's also going to need massive amounts of IV fluids to make up for the fluids she's lost, and they'll probably need to place a central line for intravenous nutrition. It's called TPN. Since she's not tolerating her tube feed, she needs huge amounts of calories infused into her to recover from burns like this, especially for burns like the ones on her stomach. I just nodded as I tried to absorb all of this information. While I had realized that Destiny had a lot more wrong with her than a heat rash, and that she had Stephen Johnson syndrome, I didn't know all of the details of the reaction. I could never have prepared myself for how sick she was right now. I can't believe they let her get like this, Dr. Langley shook her head again, in bewilderment, echoing my exact sentiments at the moment. I tried advocating for her, Lori said. I knew something was seriously wrong, but those nurses just refused to listen to me. She was standing there off to the side with really big eyes that looked like they might start pouring out tears any time. I would think about contacting a lawyer, Dr. Langley said, and not sending her back. Hang on 1 second, guys. I have to press the call bell for my nurse because I need my Benadryl. I'm going to pause the live for a second. I'm pressing the call bell. When the nurse comes in, I just have to tell her I need my IV Benadryl. Until then, I'll keep reading. I would think about contacting a lawyer, Dr. Langley said, and not sending her back. I was too overwhelmed to think about that stuff right then. Is she going to be okay? I asked Dr. Langley as my heart pounded staccato in my chest. I was almost too scared to ask the question. Can you go back in with Destiny for a second? Dr. Langley asked Lori. Sure, Lori agreed, anxiously flipping her strawberry blonde hair through her fingers. Dr. Langley motioned for me to follow her out into the hall, and I did. Oh, hang on a second, guys. I think my nurse is right out there. I just have to ask her a question.
Hi, can I help you?
Hey, I'm wondering if my nurse can bring me my Benadryl.
She's with another patient.
Can you ask her if afterwards she can bring me my Benadryl?
She's with a different patient. Also, I have to let
Can you ask her for afterward if she can bring me my Benadryl?
Pardon?
Can you ask her if she can bring me my Benadryl after that?
Sure.
Thank you. Alright, guys, I'll keep reading. Dr. Langley motioned for me to follow her out into the hall, and I did. Once we were down the hall, Dr. Langley spoke to me quickly in low tones. I can't tell you if she's going to be okay. She's very sick right now. Once the Stephen Johnson reaction spreads this far, it can definitely be lethal. We are going to do everything in our power to save her, but I can't make any promises. I felt my world dissolving around me. After everything we'd been through, I could be losing Destiny to a side effect from a mood-stabilizing medication. A cry ripped out from my throat, and I didn't realize it had. Before I knew it, I was crying hysterically. Dr. Langley patted my back. Hey, she said. Hey, you gotta be strong for her, though. She can hear you. You don't want to scare her, and we don't have much time left. We have to act quickly to get her taken care of. Dr. Langley gave me another minute in the hall to compose myself, and then went back into the room where Destiny was laying back on the exam table, looking dazed, and Lori was sitting in the nearby chair, twirling her hair so badly, I was afraid that she was going to pull it out. I'm going to have to make some phone calls and then get an ambulance here to bring her to New York Presbyterian. It could be a little while. I will keep you updated. In the meantime, I'm going to have my nurse give her 25 milligrams of children's Benadryl and 400 milligrams of children's Tylenol. I do know that she's almost 17, but we have to dose her by weight. Dr. Langley rushed out of the room, still shaking her head in disgust. I knew how frustrated she was that the Jackson Center nurses and psychiatrists had let her get so sick. Take that, and times it by 1,000,000, and that was how I felt. As soon as Dr. Langley had left, I immediately called Alan to give him an update. His fury came through the phone line like angry dragon fire. Let's just focus on getting Destiny through this first. Then we can talk about lawsuits. I tried to calm him down. I'll be right there, he promised me. I'll wait with you for the ambulance. Then it was just me, Lori, and Destiny in the room. But by then, Destiny had gotten the megadose for her size of Benadryl, as well as the Tylenol, and was sleeping on the exam table. Her mouth was slightly open, and I could see the rash in there. How could those idiotic nurses have thought you could get heat rash in your mouth? How could the other staff not have realized something? Oh, hang on a second, guys, again. Yeah, I want it now. Yeah, sorry, I'll keep going, guys, again. I'm so sorry about this. How could the other staff not have realized something besides a heat rash was wrong with her? It was an hour-and-a-half wait for the ambulance, but it felt like an eternity. I moved my chair close to Destiny so that I could put my hand on her wrist and make sure she still had a pulse. That's how worried I was. And from the way Dr. Langley was responding, I knew my worries were valid. My stomach contents were flipping around inside me, and a couple of times I had to excuse myself to vomit and then cry, and then gather myself back into something resembling an adult woman. To her credit, Lori stayed the entire time until the ambulance arrived, and spoke in reassuring tones to Destiny, even though we were unsure how awake or conscious she was, and how much she was processing. Dr. Langley kept poking her head in and having her nurse come in and recheck her vitals. I had never seen her blood pressure that low or her heart rate that high. After about half an hour, Dr. Langley came in with oxygen and looped the tubing around Destiny's ears and then pulled it tight under her chin. Then she left the blood pressure machine and oxygen monitor hooked up to her and explained to us that it would inflate and take her blood pressure every 15 minutes. That was about when Alan showed up. He walked into the room purposefully, but then froze and almost fell backward when he saw what Destiny looked like. "I know," I said, and then tried to stop myself from crying uncontrollably. We tried to not to lose it in front of Destiny, even though she was sleeping or unconscious. We weren't sure which. I was praying sleeping. "I think I'm going to head back to the center now that you're both here and Destiny is going to be headed to the hospital," Lori finally spoke up. She handed me a manila folder. This was for the doctor, but I guess she doesn't really need it at this point. "I think that's a good idea that you head back," Alan told her icily. "She's been trying to help us," I told Alan. "She tried to speak up for Destiny back at the Jackson Center." "It's okay. I understand. I would be very angry too," Lori said. Alan continued to glare her down as she gathered up her purse and left. And I felt bad for her, but I felt worse for Destiny. About 30 minutes later, the blood pressure monitor began to shrilly alarm. I heard Dr. Langley's signature pink cowboy boots race down the hall and then slow a few feet from the room so as not to alarm us. I'm just going to switch her oxygen from the nasal cannula to the oxygen mask to get her breathing a little better. I'm also going to turn it up a little bit as well. They should be here any minute. Sure enough, within 15 minutes, I heard the sirens and then the paramedics come rushing into the room. One of them lifted her onto the stretcher, while the other one was getting out all sorts of equipment. It took them a bunch of tries because she was so dehydrated, but they finally got 2 IV lines in her, one in her right wrist and one in her left forearm. Then they were rushing bags of fluid into her as they hooked her up to heart monitors, their oxygen, a blood pressure cuff. Destiny looked lost underneath all the medical equipment. "Are you Mom and Dad?" one of the paramedics asked us. We nodded. "We're going to be taking her, lights and sirens, down to New York Presbyterian to the Children's Burn Unit ICU. Doc's already given us all the info and paperwork we need. You guys can follow down in your car, but you won't be able to keep up with us. We'll make sure she gets all situated and stabilized, and then by the time you get there, they'll let you in to join her." I leaned in to give her a hug and a kiss, and then Alan did the same, before the paramedics took off running with her down the hall toward the elevator and then into the waiting ambulance. After that, we just stood there in the empty exam room for a moment, frozen and shell-shocked by how quickly our day had just flipped on its side. Had we just hugged Destiny for the last time? That's the end of Saving Destiny Chapter 13. To find out what happens next, you'll have to tune in for Saving Destiny Chapter 14, which is coming up in about 5 or 6 days, I believe. I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. I'm going to stop recording now. I'm sorry that I had to keep interrupting, but like I said, I'm in the hospital right now. I'm having issues with my central line. I'm having issues with a really bad UTI, just really uncomfortable, just having a lot of issues. So I'm stopping the live stream now, but thanks for watching, everyone. Love all you fans so much. You guys are great. Don't forget to share, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.